everybody, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Wes.
I'm Lori.
And today we are going to be talking about giving and contributions in such a time as this, Lori, because we are getting so close to that deadline to get out the contribution statements. Let me know in the chat right here, right now, if you have already sent out your contribution statements, your giving statements to your people. I know I was just looking at some of the questions, and some people said they had already sent them. Some people haven't sent them yet. But yeah, let us know in the chat. You can log on in and say, hey. And yes, we are officially live here. All right. Well, before we get going, we always like to cover a couple things here. First is, if you have not yet checked out our YouTube channel, you totally should. Lori, tell them about the YouTube channel.
So we have an amazing YouTube channel that has all kinds of helps and quick tips and so many videos on there, plus all of our webinars. So you get to the use of seeing something you may have missed or checking out other things, but it's YouTube, easy for me to say, and then you go to ChurchTrac. There's a settings menu in there that you can search for things and all of our videos, and it's so much helpful. And then those are also linked into our user guide as well.
They are. And our Facebook group, if you are on Facebook, you should totally join the ChurchTrac users group. That's just such a neat place to talk to other church trackers from all around the world and just learn from each other, share each other's Church Connect page and all that fun stuff. So definitely check that out. And one last thing I always like to show everybody at the beginning of these webinars is if you ever get stuck in ChurchTrac and you need help, it's super easy to get help. All you have to do in the software itself, you just go to this big green help button, and I'll zoom in so everybody can see it. Just got to make sure my computer works. There we go. There's that help button. You click that green help button, it'll bring a drop down of all kinds of help topics to get you going. You can also just show all help topics. Look at our online user guide. You can create a support ticket if you want to talk to a real human being. Yes. And you can also schedule a phone call, which is super handy. Lori gives me a hard time because I like to go to the bank and talk to people. So if you're like me and you like to talk to people, you can schedule a phone call and talk to us too. So that's how you get help in ChurchTrac. Now let's go ahead, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this webinar as we talk about giving and contributions. So first, we're going to start out with entering contributions. And there are so many ways to enter contributions. We're going to cover them all, how you do it, and all the things. Then we're going to get into contribution statements. And Lori's going to show off some cool contribution statements, some of her favorite features there. And then, Lori, you've prepared a couple kind of popular questions that we get asked.
So popular.
So we'll have a few questions, and we're going to dedicate time at the end as well. So if you have a question that you want us to answer live about giving and contributions, we will answer it here live. We will keep the chat open, so that way every once in a while Lori will be checking the chat. But if you have like a for reals question you want us to answer live, I know for reals question, just know that we'll have a Q&A time later for that. Yes. So everybody ready? Ready to have some fun?
Dedicated time of answering questions.
Yes. Lori, you ready to have some fun?
Let's do this.
All right, let's do this. So I'm going to go ahead and start up ChurchTrac, and we are going to first go to the giving screen because this is what we're talking about, giving and contributions. Let me know in the chat if you've already created your giving statements for the year.
Some have not. Most have not.
Most have not. Some have not. Okay.
It's kind of a hit or miss.
I feel like it's 50-50. All right, so let's talk about giving. And first, let's talk about adding a giving transaction. So Lori, if I'm going to the giving screen for the first time, how do I do this?
So if you're a brand new user, you may have a giving date in place. That's our sample giving date. Go in to the contributions screen, go down to that blue bar that says add a giving date or batch date, and pick your day that you're going to enter your contributions on. Okay. Add that date. You did the 19th.
I did.
Okay. So here you're going to be able to add your contributions. You're like, well, how do I do it? Okay. So there's a blue button up in the upper right-hand corner that says enter contributions. Good job, Wes. When you click that, that's going to allow you to search the people in your people screen. If your people are not in the people screen, it'll also let you add that as you're going. Okay.
So I will search. Let's say Matt is giving. So Matt Barker.
Orf. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that out loud.
All right. So how much did Matt give? We'll say maybe
$150.
$150. Okay.
Break it out.
All right, so Matt gave $150 to general offerings. And then let's say Matt also gave an additional amount.
$50.
$50. So we'll do 100 to general offerings. Okay.
And we're going to give 50 to the youth.
50 to the youth. All right. So
Okay.
youth camp income.
Yep. Because he's just helping out with our youth camp coverage, okay?
Okay. And then if I wanted to, I could put a check number here. So we'll say check number 0987.
Now, if you don't see this field, it's because there's a setting in the settings menu that you need to go and set up. So that would be in settings, admin settings,
So I go
screen preferences, and then giving screen preferences, okay? So once you get that in, you add the contribution. This allows you to keep going. You can add multiple categories to a person or one category. It does not matter. It depends on how they're giving, okay? Once you're done, finished entering your contributions, you click done.
And then that's it.
And there you go. And there are your contributions.
Okay. Now, this is how you enter contributions for, one person at a time, which, FYI, you want to add all your people into ChurchTrac before you start entering all your contributions. Trust us, it's way easier.
Yes, it is.
And we've got some videos that show how to do that you can check out. But let's say you're wanting to enter a lot of contributions, especially this time of year, Lori.
Or you started using ChurchTrac in December and you need to get that information in the program.
Yes. We have a way where you can actually import contributions as well. And so on any date, it doesn't matter which date you've selected on your giving screen, we have this import button here. And I'll just zoom in so everybody can see it. So import. So when I click that, it brings up this drop-out menu, which I can actually drag and drop a CSV file, so like a spreadsheet of all of my giving data. And this is really great because if you already have like an Excel sheet, maybe that you exported from your old church software, or you were just keeping record of it in Excel, something like that, then you could actually just go to a manual mode and just follow our instructions in our user guide of what needs to be in which column.
Wes, where's that user guide?
Is right here. I could just click our instructions and it
There
pulls
you
it up.
go.
So if I click that, there we go. And there's a video too, which is nice. So that's how you do that. And then from here, I can just drag and drop that CSV file. If you're using an online giving provider, such as maybe Tidely, PushPay, Subsplash, we actually play nice with those as well. And so you can take that file that they give you directly and drag and drop it right in here, and it will automatically add all those transactions for all your people, all the dates, all the amounts, the right categories. And so I've seen churches actually do this, and they've put in literally like 1,000 giving transactions in just like 2 seconds.
Yep.
So if you do already have an Excel sheet with all that data, highly recommend. Wes approved.
Definitely go in and look at our instructions as well, because there are instructions that allow you, that help with some of the exports from some of the other giving companies, but most of it is automated.
Yes. Now, there are some situations where you're collecting your giving and you're wanting to enter that into ChurchTrac, but you have no idea who that giving came from. And so the way you do that is you actually, first, you create a person in your people screen. And I've already done this. I called them cash offerings, I believe. So if I search, there they are, cash offerings. Right. So you create a person that you name cash offerings or offering plate, whatever you want. And then on the giving screen, you go and you add a date, or I could just select a date that I've already done. And then I enter contributions. And then I would just search cash. And there it is, cash offerings. And then I would just put in the amount. So maybe this was from the offering plate that we passed around at church. We'll say it was $355.
And 46 cents.
46 cents, all right. So 46 cents. So someone was feeling extra generous. So here I've got it, general offerings, tax deductible. There is no check number. This is cash. So we'll select that. And then I can add this contribution.
Now, I'm going to interject something in here for Wes.
Okay.
Something that we have already been seeing is that many times visitors will give, and they give by check, or somebody else in the church gives by check. They are not part of this. If they have contributed and there's a check in there, okay, they may not have a pledge card, they may not have this, that, or the other. You still need to add that check to their contribution. This question has arisen, and I wanted to kind of nip it in the bud, if you will.
Yes.
Not bite it in the bud. No. Just to clarify that, if people give, if you don't know who gave, they dropped a 20 in the offering plate, done, okay? But if they contributed by check, then you need to put them in the giving screen under that giving date.
Yes. So if you know who it came from, put them in the system. All right, so we've got that covered, but there's another type of giving that happens, Lori, and it's not when the people give us money, but it's when they give us something like stuff, which we call in-kind donations. So, Lori, what is an in-kind donation?
An in-kind donation is something tangible that is given on to the church. Okay, it may be that you bought Vacation Bible School supplies and you want to turn in the receipt and just say, give me a credit on my giving for this. That is an in-kind donation. I donated a couch.
Couch, okay.
Okay.
A lawnmower.
Yeah, a lawnmower.
Okay.
Churches have to mow lawns. Anything that you're giving, the giver is the one that determines the value. So an in-kind donation will be entered. Wes, if you'll show them this, please.
Surely. So I go to my giving screen and I'll just add a new date.
Okay. It was I was going to say the middle of the week, but we're already there.
Yeah, we are. We'll say it happened on Tuesday. Only on Tuesdays.
So on Tuesday, Jamie Ableton.
Okay, Jamie. There she is.
Okay.
All right. So I selected her.
Right? She decided she was going to give a couch.
Okay.
$0 donation.
So 0. We put in $0.
Okay.
And this is every time we get income
Every
donations.
single time.
Okay.
The category would be in kind.
So if you haven't yet created a category called in kind, you want to
need
go ahead
one.
and create it.
Okay.
Where did my in kind?
Right-
there
right
it is.
below
It was
VBS.
right in front of my face, of course.
The
All right.
memo is to state what was contributed. If it was a receipt, if it for X amount of dollars, if it was a couch, whatever. Okay, that is just whatever. Really nice couch.
We'll
Okay?
say a really nice
leather
Italian
sofa.
couch.
Italian leather sofa.
Leather. Okay. Sofa.
There you go.
All right.
So when you add that, how does Jamie get credit for that? Well, you're not depositing anything in the bank, so you don't want anything to go as far as your giving deposit's going to be concerned. But Jamie's going to get credit for this couch or sofa on her contribution statement. Jamie determines the value when she files her taxes.
Okay.
That is not something that the church does. It is something that the giver does.
Good
Okay.
to know. All right. So that's in-kind donations. A quick shout out to online giving. So ChurchTrac actually has online giving
Yes, we do.
built right into it. And if you want to learn how to set that up, just check out our YouTube channel or just go to our online user guide and you can learn how to set it all up. You can be accepting donations in as quickly as 20 minutes, really. It's
Right.
pretty fast.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
all right. All right, so we've covered the giving screen. We've covered how to enter donations, how to import them, in-kind, cash donations, all that fun stuff. Let's talk about contribution statements, shall we?
Yes.
You ready to have some fun with contribution statements? All right, so let's talk about printing them first because this is the more common one. So, Lori, how do I print a contribution statement?
Well, before you print a contribution statement, you want to go to Settings.
Oh, we'll talk about that later in customization.
on.
Let's just get to
Okay.
print. I want to show them how to
So-
do it now.
All right. It's easy peasy. Go to Reports in the Giving screen. Go
Okay.
to Reports. Okay?
Got it.
The very first report is contribution statement. However, right now we're already in January, so you'll probably notice that your dates reflect 2022.
They do, yes.
So be sure to set your date range for last year.
So 1/1/21, and then our end date December 31st of 21,
21.
right?
Now, you say, I don't know how to get my date in there or whatever. The drop down has pre-selected dates, but if you click into the white space on your date, you will get a calendar, and you can pick whatever date you want in your calendar. So this is good to know for running any reports in ChurchTrac.
You know, what's funny is I didn't know that calendar thing was there because I was just always so used to just clicking at, because for most of us, all we have to do is go to 1/1/21, but very good to know. Mm-hmm. All right, so contribution statement, is the first one, right?
You have options in here. So the first option is whether you want an individual statement or a family statement. A family statement is going to include all the individuals in the family that contributed. It's going to be one big family statement. If husband and wife do individual statements, one or two couples, but the rest of the church does a family statement, do the individual statements from the people screen. We'll cover that in a minute. Okay, you can include a detailed section. Most people want to see those details of how often they gave.
Yeah.
Any memos that are included will be a part of that,
Yeah.
including your in-kind donations. So you want to make sure you're there. If you have been using a pledge campaign for the year, you want to include your pledge summary. Okay, then you just scroll to the bottom of the page and click Generate Report, and bada bing, here we go.
It's done.
Boom. There you
So it only takes just a couple seconds. The key is staying on top of and entering our giving as we go throughout the year, which makes it so nice because then at the end of the year or beginning of the new year, all you have to do is just click a couple buttons and we're done. So that's generating a contribution statement so we can quickly print those out. Now, let's talk about emailing contribution statements.
Wait a minute. Let me address a question here first, because this is pertinent to where we're at right now.
Sure.
So, Readers United Methodist Church said for in-kind giving, can you enter amount somewhere if you know what that specific amount was because you've got a receipt? Only in the memo. Even if you have a receipt, the in-kind donation is always zero because the amount of that giving, the value, if you will, is pertinent to the giver, not the receiver. Okay, so you don't know how that contribution is going to affect them. So you let them determine the value. Okay?
Yeah, that's between them and the tax man.
Exactly.
And if you want to learn more about in-kind donations, we have a complete guide to in-kind donations on our user guide and our blog, so you can check that out. All right, so emailing contribution statements, because we can send them off to our people, but sometimes we always get phone calls from people that say, I never got my contribution statement. It's usually because we have an old home address or something for them. So how do we do that?
Emailing contribution statements occurs in the people screen. Okay, so when Wes goes to the people screen, then he's going to go to people screen reports.
So reports, okay.
And the last report under general reports is contribution statements. Now, the key to this working, okay, is do you have, if you're sending a family contribution statement, Wes, go show me Jamie Ableton in the people screen.
Okay, so I'll go to her in the people screen.
Okay, scroll all the way to the bottom because we know Jamie has an email address, but does Jamie have a family email in place?
She does.
Then Jamie can receive an emailed contribution statement for her family, okay? So go back to reports for me.
So we always want to make sure they have a family email if we're wanting to send them there.
Click on contribution statement, and you will see that there's a print and a drop-down. When you do the drop-down, you can select email, okay? When you go a report for each family. There's a drop-down, and you can choose individual. Okay? Then you can say the date range, which, by the way, defaulted.
Yeah, I remembered it from the last time. That's cool.
And then you can generate the report. When you generate this report, it is sending your emails. It's not saying, do you want to send emails to this person?
It's sending them all.
It's sending them all. So if you only want emails to go to specific people, check those names off in the people screen, okay? And then you can email them. If you want it to go to everyone who gave, you select the everyone smart list, and the system will generate a contribution statement for everyone who gave. Okay? You will get a report about this. That report is going to say that the email was sent if they have an email address, and if it wasn't, it will say it was not sent. Okay? And it's that simple.
Yeah. And what's so nice about this is you don't have to configure email settings or anything like that. The software just automatically sends them all. And if people respond to it, you will get responded to via email.
Exactly. The person who generated it. So it's user account email related. Oh my goodness, that's a mouthful.
So, all right, we've talked about how you print out your contribution statements and email and all that fun stuff. So what if I want to customize my contribution statement, Lori?
Okay. Now, this is where you have to have an admin user account to configure your contribution statement. So if you are an admin, you can go to the settings menu.
Settings.
You can go to admin settings.
Okay.
And then on the admin settings, you're going to go down to the report settings. It's about the middle.
And there it is.
These are not in alphabetical order, so I just try to give you a rough location. In here, you're going to determine the paper size, the type of font that you want, where you want things to go, and you're also going to determine what is going to be said, okay? If you're sending an email, you can send your email body, set your email body in here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, nice, right? You can include your logo. So if your church has a logo and you've brought it into your settings, then you can include that on your contribution statement. If you are not in America, you're in Canada, you want to go into
Canada.
Say it.
Canada. Yes.
It's Canadian settings, so it's, it goes that way. So you show your receipt number. Now, my Canadian customers always ask us this question. Can we attach a signature? no, I'm sorry, you're going to have to sign them. But we do provide you the little space on the contribution statement to sign them, and this also will put your receipt number in place. If you're not Canadian, you don't need this. If you're not Canadian, you also don't need a tax ID if you're in the United States. That does not need to be included on your contribution statement. What does need to be included, point for me that part right there.
Okay.
Other than
Contribution
intangible
statement.
religious benefits, no goods or services were received in exchange for these contributions.
Yes.
I said that fast like it was a commercial. This needs to be on your tax statement because remember, guys, this is an IRS tax statement. That's what this is used for. You can also generate what's it called? Cover letter in ChurchTrac as well if you want to include that, but that would not be for emailed contribution statements.
Cool.
Did I cover everything?
I think you covered everything. There's one thing. Oh, there's another cool thing. So with Church Connect, your people can actually view them themselves. So one thing I always like to recommend to churches is maybe in their header or the footer is to reference their Church Connect website within it and encourage people that they can also view their contribution statement digitally via Church Connect.
I like that on your thingy so they can see that.
Oh, yes, I should, yeah. So right there. So thank you for your faithful giving, blah, 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 blah. You can also view this digitally by visiting our website. There it is right there. So let me show you what that looks like if you have not yet seen this, because this is super cool. Lori, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. You're leaving.
I'm leaving.
All right, so what I'm showing you here is Church Connect. And what Church Connect is, it's a website, it's a church app, and it's a member portal for your people, all wrapped up into one easy-to-use app. So here it is. I've got it pulled up on my phone, and I'm actually logged in as a church member right now. So if I click the menu here, I can easily view my giving history. And so this is pulling all the giving history that I've entered in ChurchTrac or I've given online as a church member. And so here's all the giving history so far. And if I wanted to, I could pick a start date, I could pick an end date, and then I can view my statement. So then I just click View Statement here, and there we go. There's my contribution statement. It's the exact same contribution statement that we're generating for our people. So they have access to it too through Church Connect. And also a quick shout out for online giving. The easiest way to enter contributions into ChurchTrac is to not have to do it at all. It's to give your people the power to give online. And so to give online, I've got a giving card here on my Church Connect page. And so people can select give, and they can say, you know what, I want to give $100. Click done. I can even do recurring giving. We have the option where your people can cover the online giving fees. And then I just click next, charge my credit card, charge it $100. And I just gave $100 to church. So that's Church Connect. I always like to show that off just because at the end of the day, this is the easiest way to add your contributions because you don't have to do it. It automatically shows up in ChurchTrac. So Church Connect, fun stuff. Let me know in the chat if you've already been using ChurchTrac online giving. I'd like to hear about it. All right. Well, Lori, we have a lot of common questions that people ask. And so I'm going to rope you in on here for this.
Okay.
What are some of the most common questions? And while you're kind of going through those, we're going to open up our Q&A mode.
Yes.
Because I know you all have questions, and we want to take some time to answer them live right here, right now. So our team has opened up Q&A mode, and so that way you can go ahead and start asking your questions. If you do see a question that already someone posted that you want to ask, then just bump it up to the top and say you like it. And so, Lori, common questions. And you're getting a lot right now. I know you are. So what are they?
Well, let me give you the common questions that we get asked through support a lot, and that is going to be, my contribution statements did not pull a name or an address, okay? A lot of times when we are entering names, we don't think that information is pertinent, so we don't enter it. And you don't realize after the fact that the family name and that information, your formal name, your address, this information, it's used for something, and it's used in our contribution statements. So you definitely want to have that information in place because that is going to pull from the people screen onto that contribution statement, and if it's not there, there's nothing to pull. So you get a blank statement, and you don't have a clue whose it was.
So you don't want that to happen.
Definitely not, because then we get a support ticket, and we don't know whose it belongs to either. That's just being honest.
What are some other pretty common questions that you've received?
Let's see. Why did the contributions not show? I've actually had this asked a couple of times this week.
Okay.
when you are entering contributions, and Wes, I'm going to have you go into the giving screen because this is actually very pertinent.
Okay, so go to the giving screen. For a second. I need to get glasses, Lori. I keep saying that. All right, where to?
Go into just any date, I don't care. Pick a date, okay? Go enter contributions for me. And I've actually had to have this corrected several times just since Saturday on people's accounts. When you are looking here, oops, Wes, I can't drive your mouse. This deductible option, it is changeable. It can be changed to no.
Yes, it is.
If it's changed to no, it is no longer tax deductible. Therefore, it will not show up on a contribution statement.
Ooh. Yes, okay? and I've seen that happen many times with churches that have put, in some cases, all of their contributions as no.
And they're like, where did everything go? Well, then we have to go in and make changes in our side of things. So you want to make sure that deductible says yes if it is a tax deductible contribution.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's not going to be on your statement. Okay.
All right, we see some questions rolling on in here, so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to start.
Well, I'm gonna pick a question that's in here. Is there a way to print contribution statement without the giving itemized? Yes, just uncheck on the report setting. If you just uncheck the option that says details, it won't provide the itemization. Okay, it just gives the total for the year.
So I've got a question from Heidi here.
Okay.
So Heidi's asking, when are contributions not deductible?
When you receive something in return. So if you have a Bible study, we have a ladies' Bible study at our church, and we purchase our own books. That purchase for that book is not tax deductible because I received something in return for that. I received a book. If you purchase flowers for the church, that is not tax deductible. If you sponsor a child to go to camp, that is tax deductible. Okay. If you're paying for your own child to go to camp, it is not tax deductible.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, it is very good to know. So you need to, if you have Wednesday night supper and you pay for that dinner via your online giving, and you just include that with your contribution, part of that should be your general tithes and offerings, and part of that should be for Wednesday night supper, because the Wednesday night supper is not tax deductible.
Okay, good to know.
Okay.
Here's a question. So why don't the names print on our family statements? I think you kind of already...
Yeah, that's what I just covered. That's one of our common ones.
Got that one. So this one's from Wayne Maines. Can we change the dates of giving each month? We may need more information.
Wayne, the giver has to have credit on the date that they gave. So the deposit and accounting may be different. But if I gave on... January 31st at 11:59 p.m., I get credit on January 31st at 11:59 p.m., not on February 1st.
Okay.
So it is important that the giver gets credit on the date that they gave. That's why online giving comes in on the date that they gave. That's why we encourage you to put your contributions in. I don't care if you put them in on Tuesday night. Sunday's contributions go in on Sunday's date.
So what if someone, and this is just hypothetical, even though it happens all the time, someone gives on January 1st, but they wanted it to be for their giving, and so it doesn't work like that?
Doesn't work like that. If you give on January 1st with the idea that you backdated your check for 12/31 because you wanted that money to be, doesn't work that way. If the church doesn't have it before 11:59 p.m. on December 31st, it is a 2022 contribution.
All right. Angela's asking, can you print the contribution screen instead of email?
Right. You can't print the screen, but you can print the report. So just make sure we're both on the same page here. So printing those contribution statements, you would go to giving. Well, I don't recommend printing from the people screen.
No printing from the people
Not
screen.
unless it's for individuals. And that is because... in the giving screen, you're printing in bulk. In the people screen, you need to select people to print, or you're going to get everybody anyway.
Okay.
But the people screen is a convenience. Giving screen is a bulk process. Okay. So in the giving screen, under reports, the very first report is your contribution statement, and there you would set your date range and then generate those reports. They will all print on their own individual pages. Yep. So then you just, once it opens up and generates those reports, you just print them.
All right. Question from Laura touching on pledge campaigns. So how do we delete or correct an entry on our pledge campaign?
Laura, you are not going to like my answer.
Uh-oh.
When you create your pledge campaign, and Wes, if you'll go to pledges for me, we'll kind of give an example.
And don't laugh at my pledges because I have some crazy ones
He
here.
does.
Okay.
So
How about the real 2022?
There you go. So when you enter your pledgers, you're entering the people and how much they promise to give for that year. Okay, so you put Matt Barker in there, or
Matt
Tina.
Barker. Okay.
The pledger then is going to how much is he giving?
$2,000 for the year.
Once you enter this, there is no edit here. You would have to delete this entry, and if you highlight it, you would be able to delete it. Okay, right there at the bottom,
Delete
and then you
selected
need
pledge.
to re-enter it correctly. This is not the application of the pledged amount. This is just saying, I promise to give X, Y, Z.
Yes.
Then when you go to record those contributions against that unique pledge category, that's done in the giving screen on any given date. Okay, so that's how you would make any edits. Pledges, you can't edit. You have to delete that line item and re-enter it. If you mess up the giving, you can edit the giving, correct a category, or that kind of thing.
And just a quick shout out for pledges. One of the easiest ways to know how much your people are going to pledge is actually just to create a quick form card for Church Connect and then have your people submit what they're going to be pledging for the year. And then you have just one massive sheet of all the responses that you can quickly just put into ChurchTrac. And it doesn't take you but just a couple minutes. So.
Right.
All right. Let's see here. Question from Elizabeth. Elizabeth's asking, when I have a contribution to a designated account, how do I set up the expense side of that designated account?
That's a very good question, Elizabeth, and it's actually very easy. When you go into the giving screen, okay, these are giving categories. If you are using the accounting screen, you will go to accounting, you will go to categories, and you will create your expense category here.
Yep.
Okay. These would be designated categories, and then you would link those to the fund that goes with that category, and that way your reports will allow you to track the income and expenses on any given fund.
Yeah. And if you're not using ChurchTrac accounting yet, you totally should check it out because it is so much easier than some of the other accounting programs out there.
So much
QuickBooks. So now back to giving. So let's see here. How do I...
Elizabeth has a really good question.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So how do I set up a pledge year that does not include a prior year, just 2022?
Go to pledges for me.
Okay, so go to pledges.
We're gonna use some examples here, and
All
this
right.
is the most common mistake that I see when people are setting up a pledge campaign. Create a new pledge campaign for me.
New campaign. All right.
You can call it the new campaign.
So how about the new campaign?
Right.
All
The
right.
key to making this work, Elizabeth, is the pledge category.
Yes.
The pledge category has to be a unique category that is not used any other time, any other place, except during this pledge campaign. So if you have a building program that starts over every year that you want people to contribute to, you would not use your building program category. You would use building program 2021.
Yes.
Building program 2022. And if it's just general, if it's just pledged offerings or pledged tithes or whatever, then you would add a year to it because it's unique to this time frame. And then the end date tells the program when to stop using that. If it's not a unique category, there is no stop. It's going to grab all from
Everything,
the future.
and it's going to look like
past.
a mess.
That's a past. Sorry.
And one thing I always recommend too, just because I'm a little OCD, even though it doesn't look like it with this stuff, I like to keep organized. And so I actually have like a main pledge campaign category, and then I have different years laid out throughout that.
And
it just
why?
makes life a
Because
lot
you
easier.
can make that category inactive. That's why it's
Yes,
gray.
and you can see I've got those inactive categories that I'm not using anymore. And this 2021 is actually going to be inactive right now. So there you go.
Okay.
Good question. All right, let's see here. So what happens if someone has multiple donations, Lori, but you incorrectly entered one of the line items? How do you delete it?
Okay, let's give an example, Wes.
All right.
Go to the giving screen for me.
Okay.
Okay, click on one of your dates and pick somebody like Jamie who has multiple line items.
Okay, so here's the two right here I just did earlier.
Enter contributions.
So enter contributions.
Do you see Jamie right here?
Yeah.
So do you need to, okay, let me ask you this question first before I go any further. if you're needing to edit this, me and Wes's computer don't get along. You have to
select
edit.
it.
There you
here.
go.
So,
And then go to edit
and
for
then
me.
you can edit it. And then edit that exact transaction.
Now, this is very important. You cannot edit a name. If you entered this contribution on the wrong name, you have to delete this line, pick the right person, and then re-enter it. If it's changing the amount, changing the category, the deductible, whatever, you can edit that. If you need to delete this line item because, Jamie really didn't do that, okay, then you would highlight it and choose the delete button. You see me pointing at the screen like, they can see the screen.
That's all right, I've got you.
Thank you.
So there we go, I just deleted it.
Okay.
So there you go.
I hope that answers your question.
I think so, yeah. It was a good question, actually, because I've been asked that a few times in support tickets. So.
Okay, awesome.
All right. When someone gives online, will it show up on the statements? Yes. So that was a quick one.
Provided that the category is tax deductible.
Yes. Thank you, Lori. I almost forgot. With that one caveat.
One caveat.
All right. Okay, so that was a continuation of another question. Here's a good question. So we're very interested in online giving and Connect. Will there be a webinar on these?
There already is.
So we already have some previous ones you can check out. Just look at our YouTube channel, and you can watch those in your own time, fast forward, rewind. And we will be covering some of those later on throughout the year as well. So good question. Let's say, here we go. This one's from Wayne. Let's say someone sets up an automatic giving online on the 5th of the month, but would like it to be withdrawn on the 1st. So how do you do that?
You don't.
So they just need to cancel that recurring donation and then redo it, right?
On the 1st. Right. So it's going to give on the date that you set it up. So if you want it to recur on the 1st, then you set it up on you give on the 1st and then set your recurring giving for the 1st of every month. The only caveat to that would be if you give on the 31st, because not every month has a 31st, it's going to pick the last day of the month.
Oh, okay.
For that.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. And if you have any other questions, definitely we've got a little bit of extra time here. So if you have any, just bring them on in. Lori, if you want to check the chat as well, just in case someone was posting questions in chat, and I'm looking at our Q&A. So here's a question.
Wait, I got a good one.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll hide it then. We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it. So Doug says, what's the difference between giving categories and accounting categories? That is a really good question.
That's actually a really good question.
So,
what's the difference?
Giving, all should be income. You should not have expense categories in your giving screen because giving doesn't show expenses. You're not tracking expenses in the giving screen. You're tracking income, only income. In the accounting screen, you can track both. You can track income, whether it's through the giving screen or other forms of deposits like interest and that kind of thing. But you're also writing your expenses out of there. So your expense categories need to show in accounting.
Okay, that's a good one. And one thing too, I encounter this a lot, especially this time of year, where I'll see a church and they're putting negative amounts in their giving screen because they're trying to make ChurchTrac giving also do accounting for them. It's not designed to do that, and it's going to give you a lot of trouble. It's not worth doing that. Please just use ChurchTrac accounting. It's going to make your life so much easier.
Let me tell you why that's a problem.
Okay.
So if Wes gives $500, okay, every other paycheck, okay, because that's his offering or his tithe or whatever. But Wes is a musician. He plays the guitar.
I do.
And we pay him to do that. But instead, Wes says you say, okay, I'll just enter that pay in his giving screen as a negative amount. Well, when you put Wes in there and you put paid musician and then you minus $50 because that's what he gets paid on Sunday to play guitar, you've just depleted his giving.
Yep.
That's not okay. He gave, okay, that recording of that expense needs to take place in the accounting screen. You can't deplete what he has contributed by his pay. Okay? That doesn't work. It's a big no. Don't do it.
And if you want to talk more about it with us, just create a support ticket and we'll work with you because sometimes navigating this stuff can be a challenge. Especially if you're new to it.
Absolutely.
And even if you've been doing this for years, sometimes you just look at it and you can get quickly overwhelmed. I know occasionally I'll look at things and be like, oh, man.
By 5 o'clock, I'm pretty overwhelmed. So here's another one that came in through the chat, Wes, that needs to be answered.
Okay.
If I archive a name, will it affect the report for 2021?
That's a great question.
The beautiful thing about archiving, not deleting, but archiving is you're only taking that people screen information and kind of putting it in the basement. So all of your giving and all of your attendance and everything stays in place. So if Jane Doe gets archived, but you still need to pull a contribution statement for her, when you go to the giving screen and you print those contribution statements, it prints for her.
Yep,
It's beautiful.
it's gonna show up.
As long as she had contributions during that time frame.
That's the one thing. All right, more questions coming on in. So here's one from In-Kind. Is it possible to still enter an in-kind donation for 2021?
If it was given in 2021, yes. If it was not given in 2021, no.
No. All right, good. Let's see. Question here. So is Church Connect app available both on Apple and Android users? Yes. And they don't even have to go to the Google Play Store or the App Store to get it. All they have to do is scan your church's QR code that's unique to your church, and they can add it to their phone in just 2 simple clicks. Or taps on the phone, not clicks.
I feel like I could play hide and seek beneath our question bar.
It's just kind of weird when you're looking at it doing this live. The smallest things just make us laugh here.
We're easily entertained.
Let's see here. Okay, question here about if I have one check, let's say from a business, should I enter it in accounting or giving?
Well, depends. Did the business contribute to your church, or was this check a payment for something? Okay, if they paid for a service such as a rental or something like that, it goes into the accounting screen. But if a business contributed, then you need to put it in as a contribution and provide them a statement because they're doing that for tax purposes.
Yeah.
So that's a good question.
That's a really good question. I actually get asked that a few times every year, just because it's a super common thing. And you look at the giving screen, and you're like, well, don't I put all of our income in the giving screen? But no, it's not the case.
Please don't put all of your income in the giving screen.
Yeah, and if you do ever have any questions and you're just kind of like unsure, like, is this technically an in-kind donation? Is this technically something I'm supposed to pay a company or what? Just reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
So I have a question over here that I wanna address.
Okay.
Stephen says, I can't find a way to export a pledge report to CSV. Can I do this? There is a place that you can get pledge reports, and that's under pledges.
So pledges, okay, let me show that. So pledges.
You got to pick one.
All right, I'll just pick 2021.
Okay. So at the bottom, there's a pledge overview report and an individual pledge statement. So,
okay.
So now that's not to say that these are exportable, okay? That information would be more done with a category. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Actually, Wes is going to show you what I mean by that.
Okay.
Go to reports for me.
Reports?
Yes, sir. And go to category detail by date.
Category detail by date. Got it.
Now you pick your category here, and then your sort by whatever you want, and that is exportable, and you can see that big blue bar.
Oh, neato.
So I'm not sure what you're looking for with the pledge export, but there are 2 pledge reports that you can utilize. They're just not exportable.
Okay. And that's one thing I always like to point out, too. We have a lot of reports that you can export out the CSV. Because at the end of the day, some churches are just in situations where they have very specific data they're wanting to put and combine reports into one sheet, especially if you have like a meeting or something and you're needing to show leadership. So just know that many of our reports have that option as well.
Lana has asked a very interesting question, and I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest with you, Lana. I'm not sure that I understand the question. It says, can you enter a donation as a direct deposit and have it show up as a contribution and receive a letter? I don't know how somebody would direct deposit into giving.
Reach out to support.
Yeah,
we'll
because
help you
that
out.
would definitely be something I would want an answer for.
Nancy's asking, can you, this is actually a really good question. Can you email some statements and mail others? Yeah, whenever you're, just make sure you check the people that you want them to be emailed instead of just doing them all.
What you mean when you say that, Wes.
So when I go to my people screen and I go to reports. And
No, just check them off first in the people screen.
Oh, yeah. So I just start checking off the people I'd want to send it to. And then when I go to that reports tab and go to the contribution statement,
you can email.
It's going to be to those people checked on the screen. And so then I can send the email. So that's how you do that.
Now, if they don't have a family email in place and you know that you need to mail those, just don't put the family email in place. But if it's an individual, you definitely are going to have to check them off in the people screen for sure.
Liam's asking, contribution statements created for archived names? Yes, they are. So again, archive names, just because someone's archived doesn't mean they're not going to get a contribution statement. Let's see here. If a member turns in a receipt for something they bought but do not want to be reimbursed, how is that entered?
In kind.
It's in kind. Okay. Good question.
I'm going to get fussed at for not saying that loud enough. So I'm glad you repeated that. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So when there is a change to the giving, does that change automatically reflect on the accounting side?
Nope.
No. If you change something in giving and you have already created that deposit in accounting, it's actually easiest to go to the accounting screen and delete that deposit and then redeposit it.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way that those two screens talk to one another is through the create deposit button.
Yeah, make sure you hit that create deposit button because that's something that's pretty common. Usually an indication of a church is wondering why their accounting screen, their checking account is going into the negative, and they're like, how is this happening? I should be having the money come in. It's probably because you didn't hit that create deposit button, or maybe something even more crazy going on. Who knows?
Lana has asked another really good question over here. She said, I've had donations via check that come from non-members. That's irrelevant.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who gave it. If it comes in via check, it needs to be recorded in the giving screen. She said, I've put that as a deposit and not through the giving screen. This is, of course, not showing up as a contribution. That's correct. Is there a way to get this to come through from the transaction in the bank account? No. You're only going to be able to provide somebody a contribution statement if you have recorded it in the giving screen. Yep. If you're receiving contributions and you're not giving somebody credit, then how are you going to provide them a contribution statement?
Yep, so you have to.
And that manual deposit that you're doing in accounting is fine because the money's still going through the bank, but there's no name associated with that. So it's always better. You can put somebody in the people screen, associate a contribution to them, and then archive them, and it doesn't count against your name tier if that's what the concern is.
Yeah, and that's actually super common where you have someone that gives once, and you really don't want to add them into your database simply because you don't want to keep adding to your name tier, especially for people that just gave once and maybe came in town or something for a week and they're gone. So yeah, go ahead and archive them. So that way you don't have to worry about that. This is a good question from Elizabeth. So using ChurchTrac for income and Quicken for the expenses, should I use accounting for income? It's really up to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's optional.
QuickBooks is great, but one of the challenges with Quicken, QuickBooks, both of them are great. It just comes down to what you find is going to work best for your needs. We find for most churches, QuickBooks and Quicken don't really suit the needs of a church best because they're not fund accounting programs.
Right.
And so you have to do all these weird tweaks and everything to make it work properly. Whereas ChurchTrac is a true fund accounting program. And we are the highest rated church accounting program by a third-party reviewer, Capterra. So check it out.
Absolutely. Go read our reviews too.
Yeah. There's almost, I think, 500 of them. So
wow.
There's a lot of reviews. Let's see here. We have answered so many questions, and I think we've just kind of hit that point where we're running out of gas, and we need to close her down. So we can do one more question and then head out.
Knock yourself out.
All right. Which one do you want to answer here, Lori? And if we didn't answer your question, it's not because we didn't like you. We only have so much time in the day.
Oh, dear. That one.
Okay.
Because I promised that one before.
So would you show how to go into settings to get the check number filled? Yeah, this is actually a pretty important one. So let's show.
So go into the settings menu. You have to be an admin again to do this.
Yes.
So you're only going to have this option if you're an admin. So in settings, under admin settings, that's why I made that statement, you are going to go to screen preferences.
Screen preferences. There we go.
Then you're going to go to the Giving tab.
Giving, okay.
Now, Wes has this checked already, but it's the third option that says Show Giving Type Selection box.
And I'll zoom in for everyone that's like me and doesn't have their glasses on.
I would also strongly suggest that you hide expense categories on the giving screen so that your finance people don't accidentally associate contributions to the wrong category. But when you actually show the giving type selection box on the giving screen, you're actually setting up yourself for a report too that is a batch report that you can print after you have entered all of your contributions.
Nice. So that's how you do that. So many great questions here. I hope that this webinar was really beneficial for you all, as many of you are getting ready to get all your contributions in real quick so you can beat the deadline for January 31st.
Yes.
And for those of you who have already done your contribution statements but just want to learn more and see how you can maybe incorporate online giving and give your people the power of Church Connect to do all the things. If you have any other questions, please just reach out to our support team. We're always available, except when we sleep and when we're sleeping.
Which is not often in January.
Yeah, it's a busy month. But the great thing is we have so many videos and that online user guide that you can check out. And if you are new to ChurchTrac and you have not scheduled your workshop with us, we'd love to get that going. It's a Zoom workshop that we do with all new ministries. So that way we can just help you get the most of the software. And that's one-on-one with us in your ministry. And one last thing.
One last thing. If you weren't aware, it is the church's responsibility to have contribution statements. Let me back up. If you're in the United States and you're not aware,
Yes.
it is your responsibility to have your contribution statements in the hands of your congregants by January 31st.
That is the deadline.
That is the deadline. So I have people every year that contact me in March. How do I get my contribution? I'm like, oh dear, you are so behind the eight ball. So please keep that in mind. January 31st is your deadline. If you're in Canada, I believe it is February 28th.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week, because next week we are talking about why nobody goes to your church website. Oh my goodness, this may be my most favorite webinar ever. Let me tell you, working here at ChurchTrac, we work with churches from all around the world, all day, every day. I probably look at 20 different church websites a day at minimum.
At minimum.
And man, there are so many reasons why people are not going to church websites. And we're going to cover some of those big ones and hopefully really help you get the most out of it, so your website is not a burden to yourself, but it's actually a blessing to you and all your people that are going to your church. So stay tuned for that next week, next Wednesday. We will see you then. Have a fantastic rest of your week.
Bye.